beware of spoilers. I am Adam. It is substantially earlier than I thought it was going to be when I got out of work today. Because it's December 23rd and we had a half day. So, here we are. Let's think about this for a second. The Matrix. I think The Matrix is one of, not the first, or certainly the only, but it is a major part of pop culture iconography, and it is one of the few that's totally unique, completely out of left field, not anything we had seen before it. It revolutionized the way we look at special effects. It did a lot, and not even considering the fact that it is a hard science fiction story that is unapologetic in that fact. So, yeah, I mean, it is a huge piece of iconography. I guess I'll use that term again. And then it had two sequels. That the second one was kind of not awful, but it wasn't great either. It could have been better, but it wasn't. It certainly wasn't as bad as 3 was. I mean, but it wasn't great either. It's one of those movies that could have been standalone and then didn't need to be sequelized, and then they did, and it's like, well, why would you even bother? Because the first one's a perfectly self-contained story. Now, in the current era, it is cheaper to make to reinvent an old IP versus make a new IP. So naturally, when Warner Bros. Was digging around in its vast archive of movies it has made in the past, they passed up some of the lesser known ones and went to The Matrix and was like, let's do more Matrix. There was ideas of doing a Morpheus origin movie. There were ideas of doing a movie about Trinity, and there were a bunch of ideas being floated around, and eventually The Matrix Resurrections was the idea they came out with. Of course, it was called Matrix 4 until 3 months ago, but The Matrix Resurrections is what they settled on. And looking at it now that we've seen The Matrix Resurrections, I think it's safe to say the Wachowskis they had their success with The Matrix. I've heard good things about Sense8. I have not watched it yet, but I've heard good things. I disparaged the Wachowskis to someone, and they were like, hey, what about Sense8? And I was like, I haven't watched it, so I can't say one way or the other. I can't say that I have watched Speed Racer. I can't say that I have watched Jupiter Ascending. I can say that what they did once, they did well, and then after that, they were not quite able to replicate that. And the thing is, too, when you do a show like Sense8, there's typically a writer's room, there's more involvement. It's not just a one-man show to get it done. Now, I didn't mean one-man show. I mean, it's just an expression. I didn't mean anything by that. But let's talk about why this movie fails. Number one, if you are doing I'm gonna call it like a reboot, because that's kind of what it is. And I think that we have to really come up with terminology to accurately assess what each movie is. To call something a sequel reboot, it's kind of an art form now. And I don't think this one quite achieves what it set out to do. Because here's the problem. I think that had this movie gone out and just been the story of Bugs and her team, I feel like it would have been better than what we got, where it's like, okay, it really is just retreading the first one. So much so that to say it's tongue-in-cheek about it feels kind of silly, because it's not tongue-in-cheek, because that implies some subtlety. There is no subtlety in this. I feel like that's the thing, is it hits you over the head with the original, and it does this thing where it's like, I expressed my misgivings about this in when the trailer came out, and I said I have a problem with a movie that is going to spend a considerable amount of time acting like the main character is crazy for knowing something that we, the audience, know is true. Like, take, for example, Iron Fist did this, which is fitting because Jessica Henwick was in both. So, in Iron Fist, we know that Finn Jones is playing Danny Rand. We know he is the real Danny Rand, and we know that he is not, there is no Khan here. He is Danny Rand back from Kunlun. We know this. We spend 3 episodes rehashing it, where it's like, conversations are like him saying, I'm Danny Rand, and then someone being like, oh, no, you're not. You're crazy, and he ends up in a fucking, mental institution because he's insisting he's Danny Rand, and it's like, a fucking DNA test couldn't be done, Jesus fucking Christ. But that's not the point. This movie does kind of the same thing, where the conceit of this movie is that Neo, as Tom Anderson, or whatever his name was, in the 90s, made a video game called The Matrix, and made 2 sequels. And then, now they want to make The Matrix 4. So, that is all happening, and then on top of it, they also have this idea that he had a mental break and couldn't see the difference between reality and the fiction he had created, in this case that being The Matrix, where it's he thought he was in The Matrix, he attempted suicide as a result, and then it failed, so he's on medication, and, he sees a psychiatrist because he survived a suicide attempt. And the thing is, they spend too much time on this, and then there's a good half hour of them being like, we have to make The Matrix 4. It's like, what do people like about The Matrix? And it's like, did you guys just fucking record a session from, the fucking executive meeting at Warner Brothers at, how this movie got greenlit? What the fuck? Who the fuck cares? It's such a waste of time, and it's them developing The Matrix 4 is such a dumb subplot for the front part of the movie, the first half of the movie, that it's well, we can just omit this entirely, and you wouldn't have any impact on the plot. I'm a big fan of trimming the fat when it comes to storytelling. Don't sit here and overpopulate the script with fucking subplots that go nowhere. I don't need to sit here and have to live in this delusion with Neo. I know it's a delusion. It's when you go to see a movie like fucking Alien vs. Predator, and they're sitting there oh, what could it be? It's a fucking Predator. It's on the poster. The movie has a V in the title. Say what you will about Godzilla vs. Kong, but they didn't fuck around like that. It was you are here to see Godzilla fight Kong. Godzilla will fight Kong. Yeah, there's a lot of human shit in there, too, to make it so where the budget is, tenable. But still, you will see Kong fight Godzilla. That is what you are here to see. That is the marquee matchup. It's like going to a boxing match. You don't sit there and you're oh, well, let me sit around here and watch other bullshit happen until the fight happens. No, just give me the fight. And here it's we have this, this idea of The Matrix, and it's the plot is just so blah, and it's I feel after I watched it, I'm alright, how do we know that this isn't also, because that was the big thing in the last one. It's what the fuck? I'm genuinely what the, I can't even properly articulate what my problem is with the ending of this movie, where it's first off, he gets out of the Matrix, and he's in the real world, and they have robots that have programs in it from the, from the fictional world, or from the Matrix, as some would call it, and it's they fucking did this in a parody. In Saints Row 4, they did this bullshit, and that was a parody, and it was funny there, and it's it was meant to be silly, and it's this is just stupid, and it's the entire idea of science fiction is designed to hold a Black Mirror up to society and be, well, that's what that shows how Black Mirror comes from, but it's designed to be look, this is, if we take this to the most extreme, this is where this can end up. Swan Song, which I watched the other day, it uses science to simulate emotion and to act well, what is the repercussion of doing this on the original person, in that case, cloning. Here, The Matrix was designed almost to be a cautionary tale, it seemed, about what would happen if we let machines take over, basically, in the same way that Terminator is that. Like, the machines will slowly, will take over everything and then take over the world and then just use us as fuel. And then it's like, okay, cool, great. And I feel like this feels like we're like, well, we've passed the singularity, so now we have to learn to be friends with the machines, otherwise we're all going to die anyway. And it's like, well, cool. Like, the idea of brokering peace with the machines feels very weird. I don't think it necessarily fits well. I don't think it necessarily is something that I would, push for. It's not something I would have, gone into a pitch meeting with. Like, okay, so we're gonna, how the Matrix ended, and then it kind of, most people don't like the last two movies. Well, we're gonna do another one, but this time we're gonna make peace with the machines. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. So much of it feels weird, and then it's like, I don't have a problem with Trinity also being part of the Chosen One, because, they've said that there was, that was a big plot point of the movie, was that it's iterated. They keep redoing this over and over and over again. It's like a loop. And then what happens is, when we get, okay, so Trinity is the Chosen One too now, whatever, fine, great, cool. And it's like, well, I don't know, I don't need to see Neo ascend to godhood. I don't need, there's nothing about this that really screamed needed to happen. And it's not like when you do something like this and you're going to come back and tell what is obstinately, hopefully, with any luck, what is hopefully going to be the final entry in a series, and you're going to tell the final chapter. Have a reason to tell that final story. Don't give it don't do nonsense with it and do what you did here. Have a reason for decisions to happen. Have a reason for, things to go differently than it did the first time. And it's like, nothing really, feels different. I will give the movie that it's got an aesthetic to it that I do really like. And not even specifically in the Matrix, but everywhere they go, within the Matrix itself, not in the real world, quote unquote, but everywhere they go in the Matrix has this really cool aesthetic to it. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's got a really eye-pleasing way about it. I guess I feel like I wasted 2.5 hours last night watching this movie, and that was after watching The King's Man and after watching Hawkeye. So really, this is not a good weekend for movies. What the fuck? I just don't understand. I really don't. I don't know. I don't think I have anything else really to add on that. So, I mean, if you really feel so inclined to watch The Matrix on HBO Max, then by all means, I mean, it's your time. I can't tell you what to do with it. I can advise against it, but it's your life. If you want to fucking do that, by all means, have fun with it. But I don't know. I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it. Knowing what I know now, and if it weren't for the fact that I was doing this podcast about it, I wouldn't have watched it. It would have been a skip. I would have been like, alright, cool. In the same way that, A Million Little Things and that other movie with Angelina Jolie and all of that earlier this year were all I really don't need to see these. This probably would have fallen onto it, which is a shame because it is science fiction, and I love science fiction. If you listen to this podcast, I love science fiction in general. But I don't know. I feel like there are so many decisions in here that went poorly and were just not interesting or entertaining, that you kind of feel like you're like, well, what was the point of all of this? The point is to make money, obviously, for Warner Brothers. That's why this movie got made, not, any artistic decision or anything like that. It was Warner Brothers wants to make a movie. They want another, Matrix. So they went to one of the I think Lana Wachowski made it. And look, good for her. She got paid. But I'm not gonna sit here and act like it was the seminal work of science fiction that the first one was. I mean, like, when we talk about great science fiction, like, the first Matrix movie is in the conversation of, like, one of the most important works of science fiction of all time. I would say, like, I would put that there. I would put what was the other one? Star Wars would probably be on that list. If we're branching out into other things, I would say Foundations, Dune, like, you know, iRobot, like, shit like that are, like, these huge pieces of, you know, like, Frankenstein, the Time Machine. I just feel like The Matrix is in that conversation, because it was really the first mainstream, you know, like, I mean, really, the Terminator was the first, but, like, the idea of, like, not specifically AI taking over the world, that's nothing new, but, like, you know, the idea of sentient, of putting people into a computer system. Yeah, I just feel like I'm rambling now. Not much more to add here. So, I don't know, just don't waste your time with this. Like, there are so many better things you can watch, so many better things that you can, you can get some like, you can use your time for. Like, on HBO Max, there's so much other shit you can watch that isn't this weekend. You can go, and the thing is, too, it's like, even Sing 2 looks more entertaining than either of the movies that I saw. Licorice Pizza is getting its wide release. You can go see Spider-Man again. Like, I would, like, over any movie that's out right now, I would go see Spider-Man again before I go see anything else that's out. Like, spoilers, but that scene where Andrew Garfield walks out of the portal, like, it is something that, like, it sticks with you after you see it. But yeah, I guess, I don't know. And the thing is, it's not gonna have any expectation of quality out of this, so I'm not disappointed, because, like, I knew it was gonna be shit. But yeah, I digress. So the next movie is gonna be Licorice Pizza. We're gonna do a summation of what's it called? We're gonna do a summation of what's that thing called? Wheel of Time at some point. So yeah. And there's something else. Oh, Don't Look Up comes out this weekend. The movie from Adam McKay. About you know, the apocalypse. And about what I think about scientists who are, like, you know, they know the world is ending, and they're trying to get everyone to know there's a meteor coming. So yeah, we'll be covering that this weekend too. So until then, have a great rest of your week.